kapag ginawa natin yung will ng Lord, lalo-lalo na ngayong araw nito, expect blessings from God.
Panginoong Jesus, Diyos na may gawa ng langit at lupa. Salamat po.
Pagpapala sa lahat at pamumuhay na tapat na Diyos. Amen! Sa pagpalakpak na malakas.
Bob Lalbach sa kayuan, siya Radiological represent the summer capital of the Philippines, TopRank Valley.
Ako si Adrian Luigi Morte, sa Queen City of the South, TopRank Boom!
Congratulations, our new Mr. TopRank Radtech, TopRank Cebu, Dr. Adrian Luigi.
Congratulations to our Miss TopRank Radtech from
Miss TopRank International Corporate Entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, TopRankers, your new Mr. and Miss TopRank Radtech. Save your eyes from your tears.
The world is full of successful failures. Many of the most people overcome setbacks and disappointments to reach the top. Be tenacious, an old-fashioned alchemist who turned metal into gold. Saturday is a big day. Don't lose your chance. Live that day as if it were your last. Your time is limited. Do not waste it living someone else's life. Know what you want in life. Define your own success and stop at nothing to achieve it. You got a dream, you gotta protect it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Everybody, what is your bonus?
pinagdaanan nyo. Saksi kami sa bawat puyat pagod na dinaanan ninyo para makuha yung bawat lisensya nyo. Nagawa natin ipasa ang board exam. Though wala tayong top-notchers, okay lang yun. At least, we fought a good fight of faith. Pag-celebrate lang naman ay hindi naka-rely kung ilan yung pumasa, kung ilan yung nag-top, kundi kung ilan yung gumanda ang buhay at gaganda pa ang buhay dahil sa lisensyang natanggap ninyo mula doon sa mga pinaghirapan nyo talaga. Masaya-masaya kami kasi at least alam niyo na mula umpisa hanggang dulo, sinamahan namin kayo.
You are holding on to that dream. You have a choice today to go up or stay down. Now is the time to take the first step to the top. With quality review materials that produced board top-notchers and thousands of board passers across professions.
Today, let's discuss
In dynamic, innovative, and interactive review delivery. Ensuring an excellent, balanced, relevant, and comprehensive review experience. Extending support beyond review and celebrating victories together as one family. What you choose today determines your success, so make that powerful decision.
Welcome to the top.
Choose to be the top with TopRank.
Sobrang laki ng change ko. Simula nung pumasok ako hanggang nakagraduate ako from TopRank Review Center. One of the best sila sa buong Pilipinas. Mga staff, sobrang accommodating. Talagang din nila tinitipid yung mga reviewees nila sa mga kailangan para matuto. Sobrang lively ng environment, very conducive for learning. Ang daming natututunang knowledge na bago na hindi mo narinig nung college, na bago talaga sa pandinig mo, sa kanila mo matutunan kasi talagang nagre-research yung mga lecturers from TopRank para maibigay yung mga kailangan talaga ng mga students. So, after nung exam, confident ako na RRT na ako, pero hindi ko in-expect na makukuha ko yung 10th place. Nakuha ko tong place na to dahil sa TopRank.
Honestly po, hindi po ako one of the best students in our batch. Susunod po, hindi po talaga ako masipag na tao. Kinailangan ko po talaga mag-review center. TopRank is one of the best talaga na review center. Kasi kumpleto, isang malaking part po talaga ng success tong review center na to kasi pinush po talaga nila kami sa pinaka-limit namin. Minotivate nila kami, tinuro talaga nila lahat. Yung mga staff din po, sobrang friendly nila, approachable, and then yung mga lecturers, the best po talaga sila. Kasi kung san-san pa po sila galing, kahit pagod sila, magtuturo po at magtuturo yan kahit hanggang 9 PM nagtuturo po sila tapos galing pa po silang biyahe, ganun. Sobrang sulit po talaga sa TopRank.
TopRank is actually a good center for us for taking the Radiological Board Exam. I actually tried to study by myself, but since they gave me sample of review material and I was challenged by those, so I tried to enroll. Then I enjoyed enrolling in TopRank actually, since they taught me a lot. Actually, the best thing about TopRank is that it doesn't bind you with the four corners of the room. They try to embody you with the proper mind setting in what's actually worth reviewing for. Are you trying to review for yourself or for the board exam? And they're trying to incorporate it with the faith, trying to make sure na naka-center ka pa rin kung what really matters. And it's not just about passing the board exam, but you have to have the professional mindset, and of course, everything is centered to God.
Natulungan kami noon ng TopRank dahil sila mismo yung nag-adjust ng schedule nila, binigyan nila kami ng magandang schedule para kung ano yung naturo sa ibang block, madaanan din namin. Kahit 2 months lang na pumasok sa TopRank, naging family na yung touring nila sa amin kasi nag-a-ask sila kung okay pa kami. And lagi nilang tinatanong kung kaya pa namin para maging best kami sa sarili namin. Napili ko na mag-review pa rin sa TopRank kahit may mga available pa na ibang review centers or meron namang mga resources. Kasi sa review, parang kailangan mo is yung pati magmamotivate sa'yo, hindi lang magtuturo, pati yung sasamahan ka talaga along your journey para sa board exam na tatahakin mo.
our ever-loving Father, the core of every reason, the source of truth. You who made the earth and the heavens are the ultimate goal of every knowledge seekers, the infinite wisdom, the cause of all that is good. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a community despite the challenges we face each day. Yet you remained and gave us strength to carry on the responsibilities of bearing intelligence and using them for better purposes. We now humbly ask you to join us in our endeavor to explore the wonders of life in the world for knowledge's sake, that in whatever we learn today, we become more grounded to you, who is truth, who is love. We pray that you bless our speakers, the fount of your infinite knowledge, that they can share something worthwhile despite the limited time we have. They can channel all they know and share to us the beauty and truth of living as your child. We pray that you guide our participants, the seekers of your boundless knowledge, that they may continue to persevere in the search and be deemed worthy to share what they learn from today's session. Sanctify us, O Lord, not because we are worthy of it, but because we believe in your love and mercy, that at the end of the day, we can take home something that's amazing and meaningful. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, helas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manluluping, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ng bagaw, ay ginatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iingin, ang bituin at araw niya kailan ang may di magdidinig. Lumang ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya na pagkay mga aking, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Of different schools we start, with a single name in our part. The clash of battle is sweet to hear. Right now and the victory is near. Excellence is our only standard to outshine the rest. With a great mind and compassionate heart. Trained us to be the best we can be. All that we learned at TopRank Review Academy. We shout with pride and heads up high as victors our dreams shall soar to the sky. Just to be the best we can be. Soar to the sky. We learn that if you want to TopRank Review Academy. Soar to the sky.
Good afternoon, top rankers, guests, deans, coordinators, and everyone here on Zoom and Facebook Live. My name is Caroline Pelaez, and I will be your host for today's event. So today we will be having our Bayanihan Review Assistance Program for Radtech, wherein we will be giving out free lecture series from July 7th until the 11th from 1 to 3 p.m. for our TopRank Radtech free lecture series. We will be having Human Anatomy on July 7 by Professor Vince Neil Rafael Suclad, Rad Positioning on July 8th by Sir Reynold Anthony Gonzalez, Rad Physics on July 9 by Professor Mark Jason Gutierrez, Rad Sciences on July 10 by Professor Adrian Luigi Morte, and last but not the least, for Rad Technique on July 11th will be Professor Maria Isabel Ramirez. So for the benefit of those who doesn't know who TopRank Review Academy is yet, let me introduce our brief company profile. So TopRank has been established in 2013, and right now we're already considered as one of the biggest national review centers here in the country. We currently have 20 local branches and 4 international branches. So for our local branches, let's start with our Manila main office. We are located at the 5th floor of the Don Lorenzo building, right in front of PRC in Moraita, Manila. And we also have branches in Quezon City, Marikina, and Caloocan. For provincial branches, we have branches in Dawag, Baguio, Dagupan, Nueva Vizcaya, Tuguegarao, Bataan, Bicol, in Legazpi, and Naga, Cebu, Iloilo, Tacloban, Calbayog, Davao, Bacolod, Zamboanga, up until Coronadal, South Cotabato. And for our international branches, we are located in the Republic of Indonesia, both in Jakarta and in Bandung in Indonesia. So what we basically do there is provide them international exam review, as well as trainings and seminars for their healthcare workers to be more globally competitive. And you know what? Amongst all the other review centers here in the country, we're the only one who was invited at the 70th anniversary of diplomatic relations of Indonesia and the Philippines. And this happened prior to the pandemic, before the lockdown last year. We also have branches in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. So what we do there is provide them international exam review, as well as IELTS and OET review. So for our track record, we don't only offer Radtech, but we also offer dentistry. Our top 1 came from Centro Escolar University in Manila. We also offer licensure examination for teachers. Our top 2 came from UP Manila. We also offer psychometrician review and criminology. Our top 1 came from Universidad de Zamboanga. And of course, we have Radtech, which is this is the most recent result that was just announced a few weeks ago. So we got the top 1 spot, 3 top 3s, 1 top 6, and 1 top 10. And our top 1 came from St. Louis University in Baguio, as well as our former top 1 for Radtech also came from SLU in Baguio City. This is our Hall of Fame for our Radtech review. And of course, we also have respiratory therapy. Here are our top-notchers, and these 4 students are also products of our online interactive review for this year. We also offer midwifery and of course nursing. Our top 1 spot, we got the top 1 spots starting 2017, 2018, and 2019. And of course, for this year's MedTech review, these are also products of our online interactive review. So as I have mentioned, it doesn't really matter what platform we are using for our preparation for the board exam, because what's most important is your determination and your perseverance to really succeed for you to achieve success. And because of our track record, we are now multi-awarded as the best national review center here in the country by multiple award-giving bodies, such as the Golden Globe, Best Choice, Q Asia, Global Awards, and Global Excellence Awards. So for our review proper, our review will start on August 31 for the December 2021 Radiologic and X-Ray Technologists review. For more information, and if you are already interested to enroll in our program, please do send us a message through our Facebook fan page. It's TopRank Review Academy on Facebook. So let us now all welcome our guest speaker for today. Thank you.
And so good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the TopRank Bayanihan review program in preparation for the Radiologic Technology Licensure Examination in December. So I'm Adrian Morte. So my task is to deliver a lecture about radiological sciences. So first, let me share my screen. Moment. Ayan. So I hope everyone sees my screen. So again, our topic for today is about radiological sciences. And pwede pa mute lang. So again, our topic is radiological sciences. So this is one of the dreaded clusters in the board exam of radiologic technology. So let me start my presentation in the physics of radiation, because in the study of radiological sciences, the CT, MRI, ultrasound, nuclear medicine, radiation therapy, you have to understand the basics. So ano ba yung radiation muna, and how it is used in medical imaging and treatment. Diba? So radiation, as we define it, describes any process in which energy travels through a vacuum. So if an energy travels through a vacuum, ibig sabihin, this is a type of electromagnetic energy. Or we can also classify a radiation based on its travel. Or if it's traveling into a medium, pwede rin siyang nagtatravel sa medium, just like our mechanical energy, like the ultrasound. It ultimately be absorbed by another body. So basically, when we say radiation, this is the emission of energy through space. So yeah, radiation is the emission of energy through space. But majority of the radiation we deal with medical imaging are the electromagnetic radiation. Getting nasa picture. So this is in the interaction between the electric fields and the magnetic fields. So again, radiation is the emission of energy through space. So any energy that is emitted or transferred, either existing in a vacuum or in a medium, so that's it. That is radiation. So let's have a glimpse of this electromagnetic spectrum, because from this, makikita natin lahat ng modality. Lahat ng modality natin sa radiological sciences. So from the electromagnetic radiation, so it starts with the longer wavelength radiation going through the higher or the shorter wavelength radiation, which is, ibig sabihin nun, less energy papunta sa more energy. So it exists as radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. So anong part ba ng spectrum yung ginagamit natin for medical imaging and treatment? Diba? So eto sila. Of course, the use of X-ray. So X-ray is part of your electromagnetic spectrum. It's an electromagnetic energy. So of course, we use it in radiography. Diba? We use X-rays to be able to produce chest X-rays, skull X-rays. Yeah. And in radiological sciences, the bulk of the study dito is about the pathology, the radiologic pathology. So one of the subjects in your radiologic technology board examination is the radiologic pathology. And most of the questions are related to X-ray imaging, but it's in the pathology side. Of course, the other principles have been asked in positioning and technique in physics. Yeah. Another modality that is being utilized or utilizing X-ray is the CT scan. So CT scan, again, it uses X-rays, but it takes a 360-degree projection around your body to be able to create a cross-section, to be able to create a slice. So that's one, CT scan. Another one is if we move further in the electromagnetic spectrum, we will reach the gamma ray. So the gamma rays is also an electromagnetic energy, but the only difference between an X-ray and gamma ray, of course, we know that it's the origin. Diba? But it doesn't mean that gamma ray is positioned here further after the X-ray, mas mataas yung energy niya. Hindi na ganon. Because of the advancement in technology, like for example, particle accelerators, X-rays can surpass the energy of gamma rays. Yeah. So again, hindi ibig sabihin na ang gamma ray ay nakaposition dito, mas mataas ang energy niya compared dun sa X-ray. Again, because of particle accelerators, because of linear accelerators, X-ray energy can now surpass the energy of the gamma rays. So there exists one significant difference in X-ray and gamma ray, and that is their origin. Okay, so utilizing gamma ray for medical imaging, we have another modality here, which is nuclear medicine. So nuclear medicine, or in nuclear medicine, we inject radiopharmaceuticals. Those radiopharmaceuticals, when injected into the patient's body, of course, your patient becomes radioactive, and your patient emits the gamma rays. And the gamma rays is being captured by the detectors in your gamma camera. So making it possible to roll out or to display images of physiology. So yun pa yung isa. Ang nuclear medicine, ang forte niya talaga is to portray the physiology of the organ. So unlike other modalities, CT scan, MRI, nuclear medicine gives us the physiology of the organ. But how is this done? We use the gamma rays, not the X-rays. Okay. Okay. Another modality here is the radiation therapy, or the use of linear accelerators. So the use of linear accelerators, kaya nilagay ko siya further away from the spectrum kasi mas mataas kasi yung energy nito, di ba? As I mentioned earlier, X-rays now can surpass the energy of gamma rays. So hindi fixed ang energy ng X-ray. Kasi dalawa yan, di ba? So as you can see in our definition, radiological sciences is an art and science that deals in diagnosis and treatment of diseases. So if we are utilizing X-ray for imaging only, of course, the energy of that is at the range of kilovolts or mas mababang energy. But if we will use X-ray, for example, in treatment, we need to increase our energy. We need to use mega electron volts of energy. And so that explains na kapag pag ginagamit natin ang X-ray or ang gamma ray or any type of electromagnetic radiation for diagnosis, for imaging, our energy is only in the range of kilovolts. Kilovolts lang siya. Pero if we are to utilize X-ray for treatment, we wanted to destroy cancer, we wanted to initiate cure for our patients, then we need to use high energy. So again, we are using mega electron volts of energy in this example. So again, in radiation therapy, our primary modality here is the linear accelerator and of course your Cobalt 60. And also, gamma rays can be utilized in treatment in the field of radiotherapy. And that is in the field of brachytherapy, wherein we implant radioactive sources. Diba? Nag-implant tayo ng radioactive sources ng mga radionuclides inside our patients, like for example, cervical cancer, para matreat yung cancer. And those radionuclides, again, they emit gamma rays. And their emissions of energy is in the range of mega electron volts. Again, para maging candidate ang radiation for treatment, your energy must be in the mega electron volts range. Okay? So ito yung mga modality that utilize ionizing radiation, as you can see in our X-ray emission or are in our electromagnetic spectrum. In the non-ionizing part, so we have here our probe. Kita nyo. And kapag meron tayong probe, of course, this is ultrasound. And I position this away from the spectrum kasi ultrasound is not an electromagnetic energy, but we can consider it as a non-ionizing radiation. So based on our definition earlier, radiation is the emission of energy through space. Diba? So ultrasound is also a radiation. Ultrasound is also a radiation, but it's not electromagnetic in nature. So ano bang klaseng radiation ang ultrasound? Ang ultrasound po ay isang mechanical energy. So it is caused by the vibration of molecules which emits energy, which radiates it. Diba? So yeah, we also use ultrasound for our purposes in radiological sciences. Another modality, I guess this is the last modality, which is non-ionizing radiation in nature, is what we call MRI. In MRI, we use radiation. And specifically, the type of radiation we use in MRI is the radio waves. But primarily, of course, kaya nga ang pangalan ng MRI is, or the meaning of MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. We primarily use magnets, but to excite the protons in the patient's body, we need to deliver energy. We need to utilize radiation, and that is in the form of your RF or your radio waves. And this is non-ionizing. So as you can see, we have here all of your 6 modalities under your radiological sciences subject. Again, we have ultrasound and MRI, which are non-ionizing, CT scan, nuclear medicine, radiation therapy, and also X-ray imaging in the ionizing part. And again, take note, when we say ionizing radiation, it is capable of removing an electron from your atom. Meaning it can pose certain risk for our patient, but it's guaranteed safe and underwent radiation protection standards. Okay, so this is my agenda for today to discuss the physics. So since we have limited time, I will be just discussing the basic physics behind the modalities. Again, we have ultrasound, magnetic resonance imaging, diagnostic X-ray, computed tomography, nuclear medicine. So in nuclear medicine, we have two sub-modalities pa. We have the SPECT and the PET. And in radiation therapy, this is further classified as your teletherapy, wherein we utilize the linear accelerator and Cobalt 60 for some institutions, and brachytherapy, wherein, as I mentioned, we implant radioactive sources. Okay, so next. Okay, so the first modality is ultrasound. So ultrasound is an imaging technique that uses sound waves. So our sound waves is 2 to 20 megahertz. 2 to 20 megahertz for it to be utilized in imaging. And we utilize a transducer. A transducer is applied to the body. This transducer send ultrasound waves into the body and receives the reflected sound waves. So basically, we use sound waves. We deliver the sound waves to the patient's body. So basically, since radiation or sound is a form of radiation, it will attenuate. It will attenuate the matter. So once it attenuates the organ, it will reflect back a signal, and that's what we call an echo. So an echo is a reflected sound, and that reflected sound, that reflected echo, will make up our image. So like for example, in this what you call this? In this picture, this is your gallbladder scan. Gallbladder scan. So let's discuss the interaction of ultrasound with matter. So sabi nga natin kanina, di ba? We will apply or we will deliver radiation to the matter or to the body part. So what would be the response of the sound once this is delivered to the matter? So we will discuss ultrasound interaction with matter. But remember, we also have a topic about X-ray interaction with matter. So since ultrasound is a different form of energy, so magkaiba sila. Magkaiba sila ng nature. Magkaiba sila ng response when ultrasound is delivered to the body. So the first interaction, the first ultrasound interaction with matter is what we call absorption. Diba? So lahat naman siguro ng energy, diba? Lahat naman ng energy, once we deliver it, once we applied it to an organ, it will undergo the process of attenuation. So ano nga uli yung attenuation? Attenuation is the process of reducing the intensity of our energy or reducing the intensity of our ultrasound energy, of our mechanical energy. So the first thing that happens is number one, absorption. Diba? Absorption. And in attenuation, dalawang proseso, di ba? Kung maalala nyo, dalawang proseso ang nakapaloob sa attenuation. Yun ay absorption and scattering. So when we say absorption, it also means the same in our attenuation in X-ray imaging. Diba? So when we say absorption, conversion of ultrasound energy to heat. Diba? Conversion of ultrasound energy to heat. Kasi yung energy na na-impart natin sa katawan, na-absorb siya. Yun nga, na-absorb siya nung katawan. So the mechanical energy is converted into heat. Diba? So what would happen? Ano kaya mangyayari kapag ang energy ay na-absorb? Magkakaroon kaya tayo ng echo? Magkakaroon kaya tayo ng echo? Meron bang babalik na signal papunta doon sa ating transducer to be able to create our image? Definitely, the answer is no. Diba? Kasi lahat na absorb, diba? Parang lahat na absorb, so walang babalik na echo. Parang hugot lang yan, diba? Parang, ayan. Nagbigay ka pero walang bumalik sa'yo. So yun yung pinaka-short explanation ng absorption. First, ultrasound interaction with matter. So absorption, nagbigay ka for example lang pagmamahal and then walang bumalik sa'yo. So parang ganun. So para mas madali natin siyang maintindihan. So absorption. Conversion of ultrasound energy to heat. Number 2 is scattering. Diba? As mentioned in the process of attenuation, we have scattering. So scattering, ultrasound beam dispersion by interaction with individual molecules. So pag sinabi naman nating scattering, sige, i-base na lang siguro natin doon sa analogy natin. So nagbigay ka, pinimigay niya sa iba't ibang tao. Okay? Yun yung scattering. So when we say scattering, it is dispersed. The ultrasound beam energy is dispersed to other structures, to other organs. Yan. So naman yung explanation natin sa scattering. Parang nagbigay ka ng mahal, binigay niya sa iba't ibang tao. Parang ganun. Diba? So, number 3 is refraction. So refraction is the change in the direction of ultrasound as it crosses tissue interface. So siguro in contrast with scattering, this happens in all directions. Maraming pinupuntahan. Pag sinabi naman nating refraction, parang iisa lang yung trajectory na pinupuntahan ng energy natin. It is being refracted. So, going back to our analogy, diba? Bigay ka ng pagmamahal, binigay niya sa isang tao lang. Parang ganun. Okay? So, change in the direction of ultrasound as it crosses tissue interface. Okay. Number 4 is diffraction. So, diffraction is the uniform spreading of ultrasound beam as it propagates from the source. Yan. Siguro, in comparison na lang din with scattering. Kasi parang, kung papansin niyo, scattering, refraction, and diffraction, parang pare-pareha sila, di ba? Nadi-disperse, nasa-spread yung beam. Pero pag sinabi nating diffraction, in contrast with scattering, so, uniform yung, uniform yung pag-spread. Unlike with scattering, which can happen in a different manner or heterogeneous in nature. Yeah. So that's diffraction. So actually from scattering to refraction to diffraction, they constitute the noise. Kaya may mga gray areas or may mga, as we call in X-ray, may fog dun sa ating ultrasound image because of these processes: scattering, refraction, and diffraction. And the last ultrasound interaction with matter is basically yung pinaka-ideal, yung pinaka-gusto nating mangyari dun sa physics ng ultrasound, which is reflection. Diba? Reflection, this is the tissue interaction used to make our image, which results to your echo. Diba? Ito yung nagpo-produce ng echoes natin. Merong nagre-reflect. Diba? So, tissue interaction used to make your image. So, madaling salita, going back to our analogy. Diba? Pag sinabi natin reflection, yan, nagbigay ka, ibinalik sa'yo ng buong buo. Diba? Reflection. Kaya meron kang image. So, these are your ultrasound interaction with matter. So, again, we have absorption, scattering, refraction, diffraction, and reflection. And what is ideal, and again, what constitutes our image formation in ultrasound is reflection. Diba? So once you deliver a sound waves, there is need to be an echo. Kailangan may echo, which will constitute your image. Okay? So let's take a closer look on our ultrasound image, our gallbladder image here. Example. Yan. So this organ is an example of an acoustic interface. Your gallbladder, again, short anatomy, your gallbladder temporarily holds the bile. So the bile is in liquid in nature. And in the case of the patient, it has gallstones. Yan. Ito yung white area dito sa ating gallbladder. Dito. Okay? So how do we describe our ultrasound images? How do we characterize the signals in our ultrasound? So number one, we can describe regions with many acoustic interfaces as hyper-echoic. So, alin kaya dito yung hyper-echoic? Basically, hyper-echoic regions appear brighter in the ultrasound image. They appear brighter. And basically, they appear brighter because yung tinamaan ng sound wave ay solid. Yung tinamaan ng sound wave ay solid. Like for example, ito, yung ating gallstone. So your gallstone is solid. So basically, in the rules of physics in ultrasound, if yung sound wave natin ay tumama sa solid, there will be instant reflection. So mag-reflect lahat yan. Okay? Or another one is kapag tumama naman yung sound waves natin sa air, tumama naman yung sound waves natin sa air, there will be reflection also. So bakit nagkakaroon ng reflection sa dalawang yon, di ba? You remember the speed or the propagation speed of ultrasound in soft tissue. Our value is 1,540 meter per second. Okay, meter per second. If there is a greater difference between the acoustic interface, so we're discussing acoustic interface, from the 1,540 meter per second, there will be a reflection. Okay? So, parang doon papasok yung konsepto ng acoustic impedance. Okay? So kapag malaki yung diferensya ng acoustic impedance between our soft tissue and our solid interface, there will be reflection. So parang ano yan, solid, pinakamataas ang speed ng sound sa solid, pangalawa, or nasa gitna yung sa soft tissue, which is basically water, and then gas, pinakamababa. So since yung difference ng dalawang yon, so nasa gitna yung soft tissue, yung difference ng dalawang yon is malaki. So they reflect back the sound. So ayan, example is the bone or stone soft tissue interface. So they will reflect a lot of back sound, a lot of echoes to the transducer, which will be rendered as white or bright on our image. So ang tawag doon again is hyper-echoic. Okay, hyper-echoic. Or we can also say it's echogenic. And another term for hyper-echoic is echogenic. Echogenic. Okay. Another descriptor is anechoic. So these are regions with actually, I have a typographical error. This is not few. Regions with no acoustic interface. Okay, or it lost its acoustic interface, anechoic. So example in our image is yung mga black areas. Yan. Kasi ito yung mga sound waves na na-absorb. Going back to our ultrasound interaction with matter, kapag ang sound waves mo ay na-absorb, definitely walang echo yon, di ba? Lahat ng enerhiya na punta dun sa organ na yon, walang bumalik na echoes. Kung walang babalik na echoes, walang signal, this will be rendered as black. Ang tawag lang dun ay anechoic. Okay, anechoic. Walang echoes. So, an meaning without echoic. So, without echoes. Walang echoes na bumalik kasi na-absorb. Okay? The third descriptor is hypoechoic. Yan. So hypoechoic, and tama yung definition natin dito, regions with few acoustic interface. So, diba sabi, hypo meaning less or few. Regions with few acoustic interface. So, ito naman yung may echoes pa rin, pero konti lang. Konti lang yung na-receive ng transducer natin. Konti lang yung reflected sound waves natin. Konti lang yung echoes natin. And basically, these are the regions that are gray or the shades of gray. Kasi syempre, variable yung, pag sinabi nating few, di ba? So, pag maraming echoes, mas papunta tayo sa gray na papuntang white, di ba? Pag less naman yung echoes, papunta na tayo dun sa gray na papunta sa black. Diba? So, ganun na yung nare-render na itsura. So, ganito yung example natin. So, hypo-echoic. Yan. So, ito yung mga basic principles na yan. Kailangan nating matutunan sa ultrasound. So, we have hyper-echoic, anechoic, and hypoechoic. Ayan. I specifically chose pala this ultrasound image kasi, ayan, meron palang tinatawag na acoustic shadowing. Yan. Kapag yung isang organ or isang bagay na tinamaan ng sound waves ay hyperechoic, usually it renders a shadow. Yun yung term dito sa baba niya, which is the acoustic shadowing. So when we say acoustic shadowing, it is the reduction or a decrease in the intensity of our sound waves at the back or posterior to the of the reflected organ. Yan. So nagkaroon ng parang shadow. So parang basically dahil dito may bato, may gallstone, nagkaroon ng shadow. If there is any lesion behind this gallstone, dumilim di ba? So hindi mo to masyadong ma-define, di ba? So this is actually a form of artifact in ultrasound. So acoustic shadowing. This refers to decrease in the intensity of our ultrasound beam behind or at the back of a highly reflected surface. Yan. Ano naman yung kabaliktaran niya? Kabaliktaran ng acoustic shadowing is what we call acoustic enhancement. So, acoustic enhancement, makikita naman to sa mga anechoic structures. Diba? So, ito naman yung increase. Diba? Increase in the visibility or increase in the intensity of our image because it is in the area of the absorbed sound waves. Yan. Acoustic enhancement, or another term for this is your acoustic window. Diba? For example, if you have experience in ultrasound, diba, we ask our patient to come back for another scan in full bladder. Diba? In full bladder. So if your patient is a male patient, ang reason nun, kaya pinababalik yung pasyente in full bladder because isa-scan na natin yung prostate niya. Yan. Kasi kapag fluid-filled or urine-filled yung bladder, yung urinary bladder, it can serve as an acoustic enhancement or as an acoustic window to visualize the prostate. Same is true if your patient is female. It can serve as an acoustic window or an acoustic enhancement to visualize the female reproductive organs. Diba? Ovaries. Yan. So, yan. So these are our terms we use in ultrasound. Okay. Next is yan. So the next modality would be magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, next modality. So in magnetic resonance imaging, so the use of magnetic fields and radio waves to obtain a mathematically reconstructed image. So, ano ba yung steps? So, again, I'll be discussing the physics, the short physics behind MRI. So, una, of course, we need an MRI machine, diba? We need to place our patient in the presence of a strong external magnetic field, diba? In a strong external magnetic field which is measured in Tesla. Okay, diba? Our MRI systems are described based on the magnetic field strength it possesses. Like for example, a 1.5 Tesla MRI machine. Diba? So we place our patient or we subject our patient in the magnetic field, and inside our patient, the primary focus of MRI are the protons, diba? Yung protons. So what happens to the protons once they are subjected to the magnetic field? So number one, they align. Diba? Nag-align sila parallel and anti-parallel to the Z direction of our MRI system. And ano pa? Nagkakaroon ng polarization, nagkakaroon ng precession, ng wobbling type of motion ng ating mga protons. Okay? And this basically increases or put our vector in the longitudinal magnetization. Okay? So our vector is placed in the longitudinal magnetization. So that's the first step. Place our patient. The second step is to deliver a radio wave. The second step is to deliver a radio wave. So why do we need to deliver a radio wave? So from the word here, our second word here, which is the resonance. The first step is magnetic, place our patient in magnet. And the second step is resonance. And to be able to achieve resonance, to be able to achieve the resonance part, of course, we need to use the RF, the radio waves. Kailangan natin ng radio waves. Okay? So when we say resonance, there is, or their wavelengths are the same. Same yung wavelengths ng bawat protons natin. Okay? And if we establish the resonance part, then basically, we can impart energy to our protons. Okay? Makakapagbigay na tayo ng energy dun sa processing protons natin. To obtain a mathematically reconstructed image. Okay? Our third step, ayan, magkakaroon tayo ng image. But, mangyayari lang yon kapag pinatay natin or we turn off the RF. Okay? When we turn off the RF. Kapag pinatay natin yung RF. So, ang response naman ng ating protons when we turn off the RF is they will relax. Di ba? So, balik tayo. So pag sinabi nating nagbigay tayo ng radio waves in resonance, we impart energy, your protons are excited or in the excited state. Now, you turn off the RF, so ngayon babalik yung protons from excited state to their normal state or to their equilibrium or the term relaxation. So mag-release sila ng energy. And that energy is what we call the free induction decay signal. I repeat, that energy is the free induction decay signal. Okay? So basically, yung energy na yan ay yung na-convert na magnetic energy, di ba? May magnetism yung protons natin. And then nilagyan natin ng energy using our RF. Then we turn off our RF. Then your protons will release that energy, but not the electromagnetic energy in nature, but gagawin na niya itong electrical energy, which constitutes our image. Kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng image. Okay? So that's basically MRI. So those are your three steps actually. You can see it in the name of the modality itself. Diba? Again, the first step, magnetic, we place our protons in the magnetic field. We will deliver an RF, a radio wave, to establish the resonance, our second step. And once we turn off the RF, of course, your patient or your protons will relax. Magkakaroon ng tinatawag na relaxation. Okay? Magkakaroon ng relaxation, emission of energy. But again, this energy is now different. It's not magnetic in nature. It is the energy in the form of electrical energy. And ang tawag natin doon again is your free induction decay signal, which creates your image in MRI. Okay? Then MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Okay. So I have mentioned relaxation. Okay? Relaxation. So merong dalawang klase ng relaxation. Okay? Merong dalawang klase ng relaxation. So merong relaxation na your protons will return to equilibrium or Kasi di ba pag sila ay nasa excited state, nasa y-axis sila ng vector. Okay, nasa y-axis sila. So from y-axis, pupunta sila sa z magnetization vector. So the protons return to equilibrium. So yun. And when protons return to equilibrium, ang tawag natin doon, or the time when the protons return to equilibrium, ang tawag natin doon is your T1. Okay, your T1. So when we say T1, another term is the spin lattice. Spin lattice or lattice meaning is the environment. Another term for your lattice is environment, meaning your protons released your energy to the environment. Okay? To the surrounding tissues, which we call the lattice. So spin lattice is your T1. So the time, T stands for time, the T1, time 1, is the time when the protons, or kung gaano kabilis ibigay ng protons yung energy niya sa environment. Diba? So spin lattice or longitudinal relaxation. So longitudinal relaxation meaning, diba? Yung ating XY magnetization and then the Z. So from the XY, pupunta siya dun sa Z magnetization vector. Okay, so gaano katagal yon? What's the time? And of course, different tissues respond differently. Diba? So if it's fat, sige, gamitin na natin yung fat and water as our tissue extremes. So kapag fat, mabilis siyang nakakabalik sa equilibrium. Mabilis siyang nakakapagbigay ng energy sa lattice. Mabilis siyang nakakapagbigay ng energy dun sa environment. Okay? Kapag mabilis siyang magbigay ng energy, si fat, ng energy sa environment, mataas ang kanyang signal. Okay? Mataas ang kanyang signal. So basically, anong tawag natin sa MRI kapag mataas yung binibigay niyang signal dito sa image natin? Ito yung mga color white dito sa brain. Diba? Ito yung mga white matter natin dito sa brain, for example. Yan. So ang tawag natin sa signal na yan ay hyper-intense. At ang kulay nila, at ang kulay ng mga hyper-intense signals ay puti. They are bright. Hyper-intense signals are white or bright. Okay? Okay. Let's move towards water. So kay water naman tayo. So sa water, basically sa water naman, matagal mag-release si water ng energy to the lattice or to the environment. So dahil matagal siya, wala siyang signal. Or ang tagal niyang makabalik sa Z, sa longitudinal relaxation. So dahil matagal, wala tayong na kukuhang signal or konti lang yung nakukuha nating signal kay water. Kaya kung papansinin nyo dito sa brain MRI natin, yung tubig, or for example, your CSF, your cerebrospinal fluid appears black. At kapag black ang ating black ang appearance sa MR image, is ang tawag natin dyan ay hypo-intense. Okay, hypo-intense naman ang tawag natin. Okay, so again, I repeat, fat sa T1 is bright. It's hyper-intense. Water sa T1 is black. It's hypo-intense. And of course, signals in between the hyper-intense and the hypo-intense is what we call iso-intense. Those are the gray levels. Okay, those are your gray levels. Okay. So let's define T1. So T1 is a measure of the time taken to realign with the external magnetic field. So from the XY direction, papunta sa Z direction, which is our longitudinal magnetization. And hindi natin kailangan 100% ng mga protons ay makabalik sa equilibrium. We only look into the 63% of them. Time it takes for the 63% of the longitudinal magnetization to recover. So what we need is, or when we use our timing in T1, we just observe 63% of the protons. And that is T1. At saan sila papunta again? Papunta sila sa longitudinal magnetization. T1 exists 300 to 2,000 milliseconds. And this is used to distinguish between tissue types, basically for anatomy. Okay, for anatomy siya. And mainly, T1 is controlled by TR, or your time to repeat. Okay, time to repeat or the succession of your RF pulses. Yan. So, kontrolado siya ng, or yung technical factor na kinokontrol mo as MRI technologist is the TR. Yan, time to repeat. Kung gaano kadaming RF pulse yung ibibigay mo. Yun yung repeat. Time to repeat. Kung gaano kadaming RF pulse yung ibibigay mo doon sa image natin or sa organ na ini-scan natin. Okay? So that is T1. Okay. Next is T2. So as mentioned earlier, di ba? When we turn off our RF, merong dalawang klase ng relaxation. Yung una na discuss natin, which is T1, in which your protons return to equilibrium. From the XY, pupunta sa Z. Okay? Ngayon naman, protons will dephase. Or protons from in phase, magiging out of phase naman sila. Okay? From in phase, magiging out of phase sila. And we also measure the time from kailan sila magiging out of phase from their in phase state. Okay? And ang tawag lang doon ay T2. Okay? T2, which is the spin-spin. This is the relaxation interaction between spins, between neighboring protons, or what we call the transverse relaxation. Transverse relaxation. Okay. So measure of the time for protons to exchange energy with nearby nuclei, so as I mentioned, with neighboring protons. And we just measure, or nakatingin lang tayo sa 37%. Time it takes for 37% of transverse magnetization to remain. Okay. So, kanina, parang yung ano natin, yung discussion natin sa T1 is from XY direction, pupunta sila sa Z. Parang yun yung racing. Di ba? Same principle. Si fat, mabilis nakakapunta sa Z. From XY, papunta sa Z, mabilis siyang nakakabalik. Mataas ang signal sa T1. Si water, ang tagal niyang punta sa longitudinal. Okay. Ngayon, iba naman yung rules ng game natin. When it comes to T2, iba naman yung rules ng game natin. The more you stay in the XY direction, or the more you stay in the transverse magnetization, diba? Or in your finish line, for example, in your starting line, for example, the more signal you get. Okay, so that explains na si water, dito sa image na to, diba? Again, this is your CSF. Diba? This is your CSF. Si water now appears white or bright. Diba? Your water appears white or bright. Diba? Kasi, ang tagal niyang makabalik sa equilibrium. So, ang taas ng signal niya. So, again, ang tawag yan sa mataas na signal ay hyper-intense. So, for a T2 image, for this example again, your CSF is hyper-intense. It appears bright on your image. Okay. On the other hand, fat, mabilis siyang makaalis dun sa transverse magnetization papunta sa longitudinal magnetization. So dahil umalis siya dun, nakaalis agad siya sa starting line, less yung signal niya. Kaya, it appears black. Baliktad naman. It appears black on this image. So hypo-intense naman yung signal niya. Okay? So, yan. So, your T2 is 30 to 150 millisecond. Okay, so, your T2 is 30 to 150 millisecond. And this is used to distinguish pathology. Kasi di ba kanina sa T1, it is used for anatomy. Yun yung normal na gamit ng T1. So, bakit kaya ginagamit ang T2 for pathology, mainly because most of the pathology in our body is inflamed. Mayroong inflammation yan, most of them. And it contains water. And again, water is bright in T2. If water is bright in T2 and most of your pathologies are inflamed, then we can distinguish pathology, right? Yan. So again, T1 is for anatomy, T2 is for pathology. Okay. And T2 is controlled by your TE. TE stands for time to echo. Time to echo. So this is controlled by T, time to echo. So pag sinabi naman nating time to echo, kanina I mentioned TR, which is time to repeat, the number of RF pulse delivered. Pag sinabi namang TE, the time from the collection of signal. Okay? So pag sinabi nating time to echo, as explained in the physics of MRI, echo stands for the signal. Okay. How about T1s are controlled by T1 is controlled by TR, which is the time to repeat the number of RF pulse. More RF pulse, mas T1. T2 is controlled by your TE. Okay. So collection of signal naman. Okay. Another parameter. So as you can see, yung nilagay ko lang na discussion natin for MRI is basic lang. T1, T2, tsaka yung proton density. So the last one is yung proton density or your spin density. Pag sinabi natin spin density or proton density, this is the amount of hydrogen concentration in the tissue. It is a measure of the quantity of nuclei that are present in a given volume of tissue. So basically, if there is more water, okay, pag mas maraming tubig, mas maraming CSF, mas maraming signal. Diba? Water, the chemical formula for water is H2O. Diba? The more hydrogens, the more signal we get. The less hydrogens, the less signal we get. Okay. So, dali lang yung sa proton density. We just look into the hydrogen concentration, the number of protons. Diba? The hydrogen, anong chemical number ni hydrogen? It's 1. Diba? And proton, it constitutes the atomic number. So 1 proton is 1 hydrogen, which is our basis for MR imaging. Okay, so that is MRI. Okay. Next modality is computed tomography. So ayan, as pinakita ko sa inyo kanina sa ating electromagnetic spectrum, your computed tomography again uses X-rays, but your X-rays are delivered 360 degrees around your patient. Yan. For the very reason of overcoming superimposition. Diba? Kaya siya 360 degrees in all projections binigay yung X-ray natin is to overcome superimposition. The same principle we use in positioning. Diba? In positioning, we angulate our X-ray tube, we angulate the body part to overcome superimposition. So dito sa computed tomography, sobrang wala nang kawala. Talagang tanggal ang superimposition because your X-ray tube in simultaneously with your detectors rotate 360 degrees around the patient. Yan. So let's define CT. Method of acquiring and reconstructing the image of a thin cross-section on the basis of measurements of attenuation. Again, we already defined attenuation. Attenuation is the reduction of the intensity of our X-ray beam. Diba? So basically, in CT, if you understand your physics, diba? In your radiologic physics, kahapon, I think, sir, diba? So it applies with CT. X-ray na nag-attenuate sa X-ray imaging ay parehas lang sa X-ray na nag-attenuate sa CT. So parehas lang din actually yung, mamaya sa image formation natin, parehas lang din yung mga kulay, yung mga black at white natin. Okay. So again, in CT, we need an X-ray tube, but the difference is we have a X-ray tube here. It rotates around your gantry. Simultaneously with your detector. Your detector actually captures the exit radiation, diba? So we call the radiation, the type of radiation that exits through your patient is the exit radiation or the remnant radiation, diba? Remnant radiation. And your remnant radiation contains the patient's diagnostic information. So basically, your detector captures that. And your detector, depende dun sa type ng detector, whether it's scintillation detector or a gas field detector, it will convert your remnant radiation into an electronic signal. Yan. Into an electronic signal. If it's a scintillation detector, dadaan pa siya sa light. Kaya dito may light. Diba? So it will convert your remnant radiation into an electronic signal, creating your slices. Okay? So basically, because the rotation of your X-ray tube and detectors is in the cross-section of your patient, the first thing you will see when you acquire a CT scan image, or the first slice you will see is an axial slice, diba? An axial slice or a transverse slice. So ito yung una nating nakita pag nagsi-CT tayo, diba? Nakita natin yung axial transverse slices ng katawan. Okay? Then later on, during the reconstruction process, we can transform our axial slice into coronal and sagittal slices. Yeah. Coronal and your sagittal slices using the algorithm MPR. MPR. MPR stands for multiplanar reformation. Okay. MPR stands for your multiplanar reformation. Again, you convert your axial slice into coronal, sagittal, even oblique slices. And again, the algorithm we use is the MPR, multiplanar reformation. Okay, so that's basically CT. So if you understand radiologic physics, actually the same with certain major difference. Pero majority parehas lang yan. Parehas lang yung physics ng CT. Okay. So in CT, we use a numerical value to characterize our pixels in CT. Okay, and that's what we call Hounsfield units, HU. Okay, so Hounsfield units are numerical information contained in each pixel. Okay, and where do we base our Hounsfield units, or what composition in our body we base our HU or Hounsfield units? We base it in the majority of our tissues, which is composed of water, which renders an HU of 0. So your water has an HU of 0. So basically, if an organ is denser than water, it will render a positive Hounsfield unit value. Okay? If your organ is less dense than water, it will render a negative Hounsfield units, diba? So, yun yung explanation kasi naka-base tayo sa water. So, lahat ng organ na mas dense or mas attenuating compared sa water, matataas yung Hounsfield units nila. Mga positive numbers. So, hindi ko na pinakita dito yung lahat ng Hounsfield units kasi iba-iba naman sila. Pero basically, yun yung principle. So, nakabase sa tubig. So, lahat ng Hounsfield, lahat ng organ na denser than water, matataas yung Hounsfield units. Positive numbers sila. Like for example, bone. Positive 1,000. Diba? Positive 1,000. Gray matter, 50. 45. White matter, 50. Diba? Parang ganun. Or blood. which is around 20. Diba? So, another one is air. Pag air is less dense than water. Diba? If air is less dense than water, then it will render a negative Hounsfield unit. Diba? So, air is negative 1,000, for example. And in CT again, we can characterize those as your hyperdense. So, regions with higher electron density, like for example, ito, yung buto. Diba? Yung buto is yun, mataas ang density niya, mataas ang electron density niya, mas nag-attenuate sa kanyang X-ray beam, kulay puti ito, hyperdense. Hyperdense. Aside from the bone, of course, may contrast tayong nakikita dun sa stomach. So, contrast, bone, basta mataas ang atomic number, ang electron density, hyperdense. Diba? Same lang din with X-ray imaging. Parehas lang. Mataas ang Hounsfield units. So, for this bone, again, it's positive 1,000. So, isodense is between hyperdense and hypodense. Ito yung mga gray levels natin. It's considered our gray levels. And hypodense, regions with lower electron density, like for example, the air in the stomach also. Air in the stomach or here in your lungs, yan. It is hypodense. Mababa ang Hounsfield units, negative ang Hounsfield units natin. Okay? So CT, halos parehas lang yan sa X-ray imaging. But the only difference in CT we have here, the Hounsfield units. The numerical information contained in each pixel. Okay? That is your CT. Okay. Next modality. Next modality is nuclear medicine. Nuclear medicine is a medical specialty that focuses on the use of radiopharmaceuticals for diagnosis, therapy, and medical research. So as mentioned earlier, we inject radiopharmaceuticals to our patients. And your radiopharmaceuticals, so let's discuss radiopharmaceuticals. Your radiopharmaceuticals has two major components. Okay. Number one is the radionuclide. Number one is the radionuclide. So radionuclide, this gives off the gamma rays. A while ago, I showed you the electromagnetic spectrum. Nuclear medicine uses the gamma rays from the radionuclide. Again, your radionuclide emits the gamma rays. And that very gamma rays is used for image formation in nuclear medicine. So without the radionuclide, without the gamma rays, wala tayong image. Okay? Okay. Now, we need to deliver the radionuclide into our target organ or our organ of interest. Like for example here, ito. Kung nasan yung mouse ko. Ito yung heart. This is a nuclear medicine imaging of the heart. Myocardial perfusion imaging. So we need to deliver the radionuclide in the heart. We need a pharmaceutical. And that pharmaceutical example is the sestamine. Okay? And the most common radionuclide pala na ginagamit natin sa nuclear medicine is technetium. Technetium 99M. Technetium 99M emits 140 keV of gamma rays. Very ideal for imaging purposes. Okay? So technetium 99M again is our radionuclide. Again, it will give off your gamma rays. And sestamine is our pharmaceutical. This will serve as the carrier. Serve as the carrier of that radionuclide papunta dun sa heart muscles natin. And that is sestamine. So altogether, radiopharmaceutical is the combination of your radionuclide and pharmaceutical, or in our example, that would be your technetium 99M, which is again our radionuclide, and sestamine, which is our pharmaceutical. So radiopharmaceutical. So we inject radiopharmaceuticals to our patients. That makes our patient radioactive. So the source of radiation exposure in nuclear medicine imaging. Okay, so your patient, again, is the source of medical exposure in nuclear medicine. Okay? And aside from that, nuclear medicine sets apart with other modality in that it does not, or it's actually unclear in presenting anatomy. When you jumble the letters N and U in the word nuclear, it's unclear in anatomy, but very clear on the physiology. So the main purpose of nuclear medicine is to give us physiologic information, function. So function naman yung ibinibigay na information ng nuclear medicine. Okay? So here in nuclear medicine, we have two modalities. Okay, we have two modalities. Number one is the use of your gamma camera. Gamma camera, or what we call SPECT. Okay, SPECT systems. So when we say SPECT, ibig sabihin ng SPECT ay single photon emission computed tomography. I repeat, SPECT stands for single photon emission computed tomography. Yan. So, ang ginagamit natin again is the gamma camera. Gamma camera. Another modality is the PET scanner. Okay. Ano naman, ito yung example ng PET scanner. Parang parehas lang siya sa CT scan ng itsura kasi may gantry din siya. Diba? Pero this one is uses positrons. So, by the way, PET stands for positron emission tomography. I repeat, PET stands for positron emission tomography. Okay. So ang difference lang ng dalawa, ibang klaseng radionuclide yung ginagamit natin sa SPECT, wherein sa SPECT ang ginagamit nating radionuclide dyan ay yung mga gamma ray, gamma emitting. Okay? Sa PET naman ang ginagamit natin are mga positron emitting radionuclides, mga positron, mga beta plus emitters. But eventually, when your positron meets the electron, okay, when your positron meets your electron, di ba, nagkakaroon ng anong X-ray interaction with matter. Okay, positron plus electron, anong X-ray interaction with matter yan? So that would be the annihilation or the pair production. So, once your electron and your positron na in-inject mo sa pasyente ay nag-collide, nag-meet sila. So nagkakaroon ng annihilation reaction. And in that annihilation reaction, they split their energy 180 degrees apart, and both rays compose of 511 keV, gamma rays. Okay? So gamma rays pa rin yung ginagamit natin for imaging. Pero again, I repeat, ang ini-inject natin sa pasyente ay beta plus emitters, which emits positrons. Diba? Pero after mag-interact ng positron sa katawan ng pasyente, nagkakaroon ng annihilation reaction which converts their masses, diba? Sabi nga ni Einstein, yung sa famous na equation niya na E is equal to mc squared, diba? The masses of the electron and the positron can be converted into energy. And, diba, remember, what's the mass of the electron? That's 9.11 times 10 negative 31 kilograms. Diba? So that 9.11 negative 31 kilograms can be converted into an energy, which is the 511 keV gamma rays. Okay. So, yun yung nangyayari. Nagsisplit. So, 511 keV. So, basically, radioactivity-wise, mas mataas lang talaga yung energy sa PET. Kasi di ba, yung pasyente mo dito nag-emit ng 511 keV. Imagine that, 511 keV. But in nuclear medicine, kasi nga di ba, the most common radionuclide in nuclear medicine is technetium-99m, which is, the energy is 140 keV. Ayan. So basically, yan. Yun yung major difference ng SPEC, and PET. But nevertheless, kung mapapansin nyo, pareha silang may word na tomography sa dulo. Diba? Pareha silang may word na tomography. SPECT, ba? May tomography. PET, may tomography, meaning it renders a three-dimensional picture. Same with CT scan. Yan, 3D yung images natin sa nuclear medicine, tsaka, sa SPEC and sa PET. So, meron kang axial, meron kang sagittal, meron kang coronal slices. So, yeah. So, that's nuclear medicine. Yan. So, now, ito yung example ng scan natin sa nuclear medicine. Yan. This is a PET scan. So, a PET scan, so to give you a little background on PET scan. Again, we inject positron-emitting radionuclides in PET, diba? And the most common is F18FDG, fluorine-18 fluorodeoxyglucose. Fluorine-18 fluorodeoxyglucose, once injected into the patient's body, it's glucose. By principle, your cancer cells, matakaw yan sa sugar. Matakaw siya sa glucose. Dahil sa katakawan ng cancer sa sugar, they take up more F18. Mas kumukuha sila ng F18 sa katawan nila, or sa system nila. Okay? Kaya, nakita dito yung mga black areas, yan. Mga cancer mets yan. Yan. Of course, except for the brain, because your brain, technically and naturally, your brain is matakaw sa sugar because it needs glucose for energy, diba? So, any other than the brain or the urinary bladder, the liver or the heart, yan, mga cancer yan. Yan. Kasi nga matakaw yung cancer sa sugar, sa fluorodeoxyglucose. Okay. So, okay. In contrast with CT, sa CT, ginagamit natin, di ba, is the Hounsfield units to describe the activity of to describe our CT scanners. Pero dito sa PET, we use the standardized optic value or the SUV. So SUV is the measurement of the activity seen in ROI relative to the body as a whole. Yan, standardized optic value. So ito yung magsasabi whether yung hotspot, I'll explain hotspot, or yung mataas na activity na yon ay mas mataas doon sa body as a whole. So meron ginagamit, so SUV yung ginagamit na parang measurement natin. Okay? So ito yung hotspot. So hotspot, regions with high pharmaceutical accumulations. Okay? Hotspot, regions with high radiopharmaceutical accumulation. Ito sila, yung mga color black. And kasama na dun yung brain. Diba? Kasama na dun yung mga mets, mga cancer mets dito. Hotspot. And depende yung paggamit natin or depende sa pathology kung hinahanap ba natin ay hotspot o ang hinahanap natin ay cold spot. It depends on the pathology. So generally speaking, kapag mga oncology applications, mga bone scan, mga PET scan, we are looking for hotspot because this denotes cancer. This denotes metastasis. Okay, pero sa ibang mga procedure, like for example, sa myocardial perfusion imaging, hinahanap naman doon ay cold spot. So cold spot which denotes myocardial infarction or myocardial ischemia, for example. So cold spot, as we define it, regions with low radiopharmaceutical accumulation. For example, in this area, yung mga color white naman. Okay? So again, yung paggamit ng cold spot and hot spot depende sa pathology, depende sa procedure na ginagamit natin. Okay, so this is nuclear medicine. So our descriptors, hot spot, cold spot, standardized optic value. Okay. And then the last one is radiation therapy. So radiation therapy, a clinical process that uses complex equipment and radiation sources for the treatment of variety of diseases. Okay, so let's go back again to our electromagnetic spectrum. So, in radiation therapy, gumagamit tayo ng X-ray, diba? We use X-ray for treatment. But to draw the line between an X-ray imaging and radiation therapy, syempre mas mataas ang energy na ginagamit or mas mataas ang X-ray energy na ginagamit natin for radiation therapy. Again, we utilize mega electron volts of energy as compared with X-ray imaging na kilo electron volts lamang. Okay? Para makapatay tayo ng cancer, kailangan mas mataas yung energy na gagamitin natin. Mas mataas yung voltage natin. Dapat millions of electron volts. Okay. At anong makina ang magpo-produce ng multi-electron volts of energy? Okay? And that would be your linear accelerator. Ayan. So, ito si linear accelerator. So, yung linear accelerator, it's a type of teletherapy category in the radiation therapy, which is actually known as the external beam radiation therapy, wherein the delivery of radiation is at a distance from your patient. So, X-ray, pero mega electron volts of energy ang ginagamit natin para mamatay yung cancer. Yan. And of course, syempre, hindi lang to basta-basta parang chest X-ray na gagawin. Kunwari, kung may breast cancer, ibibigay mo na bagad sa breast cancer yung radiation. And of course, this undergo careful planning. So, nagkakaroon tayo ng mga planning. Because, ayun, of course, medyo mahaba-haba yung discussion for that. Reserve na lang natin siya for our lecture. So, we'll enroll in TopRank Review Academy, of course. Yan. Tapos, yun. In radiation therapy, parang actually dito sa radiation therapy, dito na nagsasama-sama lahat ng modality natin. Dito na nagsasama-sama lahat ng modality. Like for example, CT. Use CT in radiation therapy for planning, diba? For our simulation, diba? You can also use MRI, for example. Pwede na naman. You can use the PET, diba? To monitor the prognosis of our patient, diba? And we also use radiobiology and protection, diba? We consider the radiosensitive and the radioresistant organs. So basically dito, lahat ng napag-aralan natin sa Radtech, ma-apply natin sa radiation therapy. Yeah. So again, we use the linear accelerator. And other sites, gumagamit pa rin ng cobalt-60. Yan. Yung cobalt-60 naman, kung si LINAC nagpo-produce ng X-ray for treatment at mega electron volts of energy, si cobalt-60 naman, it produces gamma rays. Gamma rays. And we have a constant value for the energy of the gamma ray emission of cobalt-60. And that would be, tawag dito, 1.17 and 1.33 MeV. Diba? Dalawa yung energy emission ng cobalt-60. 1.17 MeV and 1.33 MeV. Average nun is 1.25. Okay, I repeat, 1.25 MeV. The half-life is 5.26 years. So, ayun. Yun yung dalawang modality na ginagamit natin sa teletherapy, radiation therapy. So, pag LINAC, X-ray. Kapag cobalt-60, gamma ray. Magkaiba lang sila ng energy. Pero pareha silang nasa mega electron volts of energy range. Yan. Tapos, ano pa ba? Di ko pala nasabi, di ko nabanggit na aside sa X-ray, ang linear accelerator, nagpo-produce din yan ng electron. Yan. Aside sa X-ray, ang linear accelerator nagpo-produce yan ng electron. So, saan ginagamit ng electron? Ang electron, ginagamit yan sa superficial lesions. Kapag yung case ng pasyente ay, or yung lesion is superficial, usually ginagamit is electron beam. Whereas kapag mga deep-seated lesions, yung mga malalalim na lesions na, ginagamit na dyan X-ray or yung photon natin. Okay? So, radiation therapy. So again, we have two types. Teletherapy, external beam radiation therapy. So those delivered from outside the patient using X-rays, gamma rays, or high-energy particles such as electron and protons. Yan. Hindi ko pa na dagdag pala dito. May proton beam therapy din, pero wala pa siya sa Philippines. Pero we can actually use protons for treatment. Yeah. And then the last type of radiation therapy is brachytherapy. Brachytherapy, it's an internal radiation therapy. So the dose is delivered from radioactive sources. So basically, we implant these radioactive sources in our patients. Diba? At anong pangalan ng machine na ginagamit natin for brachytherapy? And ito yun, that's a picture. This is your applicators. Yan, mga applicators. And basically, yan, using the applicator, we can deliver the radionuclide. So usually, mga ginagamit na radionuclide, mga cobalt-60, cesium-137, radium-226, for example, kung superficial. But more likely, pag sa mga gynecological, ang ginagamit natin is cesium-137. Cesium-137 yung ginagamit natin to implant that into the cervical cancer, for example, or kung may prostate cancer yung pasyente, pwede rin naman, gold-198, ganyan. So, brachytherapy. So, we place our, the radionuclide is placed at a distance from our patient. So, ayan. I haven't include radiation pathology kasi, radiologic pathology kasi ang dami nun. Pero, yan. Basically, these are your subjects in the radiological sciences. Ito yung mga subject na may encounter natin if we take the cluster 5, the final cluster in the board examination. So, may advice again, kaya kung mapansin nyo, medyo short lang yung mga discussion natin sa bawat subject. Mas nag-focus lang ako dun sa physics part. So kasi 'di ba pag alam natin yung physics part ng modality, alam natin yung image formation, 'di ba? Yun yung mga usual din kasi na tinatanong din sa board exam. Apart from mga alienated questions minsan sa cluster 5 na alam mo yun, mga out of this world questions sa cluster 5. So yan. So yan yung mga lalabas sa cluster 5. Again, ultrasound, CT scan, MRI, radiation therapy, nuclear medicine, radiologic pathology. So ayan. So that's your radiological sciences. Yeah. So that's it, guys. Do you have any questions? Ano ba't pala kayo? Yeah. Any questions? Ayan. Sa chat na lang. How about Mamo? Di ko alam kung saan papasok si Mamo. Pero basically, baka sa Rad side din. Kasi, ayun, it's a modality. Yeah. So, yung mammography, basically, it's an X-ray imaging but dedicated for imaging the breast. Diba? Ayun. So, with that, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for participating in today's Bayanihan program.
Thank you, sir.
I hope, ayun, mag-enroll kayo sa TopRank in preparation for your December boards.
Thank you, sir.
Ayun. Ingat kayo lagi and God bless.